feel alright. The key to success is in my hands. As soon as I understand, I've got to treat and move my feet. I've got to treat and move my feet. Nobody else gonna rescue me. I've got to treat and move my feet. If I wanna have more peace in my life, I need to take the time to listen to the voice inside. If I know who I am and my aim is true, the only thing I've got to do, I've got to treat and move my feet. I've got to treat and move my feet. Nobody else gonna rescue me. I've got to treat and move my feet. I'm so glad that it's up to me. I've got to treat and move my feet. I've got to treat and move my feet. I've got to treat and move my feet. My soul sings out to you, my love. My soul sings out to you. My soul sings out to you, my love. My soul sings out to you. Oh Lord, my God, you are my strength. You carry me on your wings. You are in me, you know my heart. My soul sings out to you. My soul sings out to you, my love. My soul sings out to you. My soul sings out to you, my love. My soul sings out to you. Your constant blessings flow to me like a mighty river to my heart. You are my life, you set me free, and I will love you forever and ever and ever and ever, forever and ever and ever and ever. My soul sings out to you, my love. My soul sings out to you. My soul sings out to you, my love. My soul sings out to you.
Yes, our souls sing out this morning as we wake up that hour early to get here and to be prepared for the day that we've been given. And so we simply step into our gratefulness, our blessings, taking the time to just acknowledge this amazing technology that brings this experience to you. We are grateful for this amazing music, our singer and our piano player, Aaron. We give thanks for the tech team that's here making sure that we went live on time today. How amazing is that? But we give thanks for every little piece that comes together to make this next hour happen. We are just so blessed to be a part of this family, and we welcome you in. Please help me anchor this by saying, and so it is. Woo! All right, good morning, ACSL. How's everybody doing? I'm fairly certain most of you are in pajamas, so what a great way to be. So, this morning, our candlelighter is going to be Bob Corpin. And as you know, we celebrate the season of peace here. And this morning, I'm going to be sharing with you the Jewish prayer for peace. Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, that we may walk the paths of the Most High. And we shall beat our swords into plowshares, and our spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, and neither shall they learn war anymore. And none shall be afraid, for the mouth of the Lord of hosts has spoken. And of course, our second candle is our healing candle of love. And so we invite you, in the stillness of your own mind, to bring to awareness the names of anyone that you wish to be included in this healing flame of love and of light. So now that our flames of faith are fully lit, we move forward into our celebration, realizing and reaffirming that all paths lead to God. Thank you, Bob. Not as easy as it looks. Let's bring some life into today by sharing our purpose, vision, and mission statements. Our purpose, our reason for being. We awaken and inspire love and oneness. Our vision, what are we going to create? What are we going to become? We are an empowered, uplifting, inclusive community. And how are we going to do this? What is our mission? We teach spiritual transformation with grace and joy. Awesome. Our sacred reading today comes from Jane Beach. It's titled, I'm Going For It. Now, wild animals who have been caged, then rescued with vast open space before them, may hesitate to move beyond the perimeters of the caged that they're used to. We aren't so different. While the universe calls to us, come see what's out here for you. It's safe to move forward. We often hesitate to believe it. So today, listen to the voice of life's call. No more hesitating. Step into it. Back to incredible music. you, Jessica. So, my name is Linda Steiner, also known as Midnight's Mom. I am one of the many licensed practitioners who gratefully serve here at the Alaska Center for Spiritual Living. And so, prayer, that's what we're about. We love to pray. We love to pray for each other. We love to pray for you. And we love to pray for way beyond that. So I invite you to reach out to us through our website. Send us a prayer request. It doesn't matter when you do that. It could be 3 o'clock in the morning, or as we change this time and we're all confused for the next week. Any time will do. Send us your, what's on your heart. Let us pray for you. So, announcements. Oh my God, it's happening! It's happening! Do you know what's happening?
What's happening?
This Thursday, Foundations class! Woo! Oh my God, if you are not signed up, you still have time. It's going to be Kaleem and it's going to be Bob. Oh my God, I don't care what you're doing Thursday nights. You have to take Foundations class. This is going to be incredible. So if you have not signed up, and I know that you probably already have, but I'm just, pushing you a little bit, you can register by emailing office@CSLalaska.org. Or feel free to call the office. It's a $295 investment in your life. It's an investment in who you are. It's an investment of who you can become. So I invite you, I passionately invite you. If your life is absolutely perfect, watch TV on Thursday night. If it's not, then join this class. And if the $295 is a little bit more than you can handle, call us. Reverend Don's willing to pay. Oh, no, you're not. No, you have scholarships. You're not going to pay for it out of your own pocket. Okay, we got you covered. Thursday night's Foundations class. I'm so excited for them. Now, the other announcement, and this is kind of important, it's that time of year when we elect new people to the board. Now, if you are being called to be one of the people on this board, reach out to us. We would love to have your application put in and put your name into the pot to become a member of this incredible bond of people who are doing kind of the business end of what happens here at ACSL, but it's so important. I know one of the decisions we'll be making is when we're going to reopen. So if you want to be a part of that, reach out to us. So the conclusion of that announcement, though, is April 25th is actually our annual business meeting, and that's where we will actually be voting for the new people on the board. And I invite you to please put that date down because we need you to show up to be part of this meeting and vote for the future of this incredible center. And so our speaker today is Reverend Don. Looking forward to that. And now, back to this amazing music.
So you guys might know this song at home, and if so, you should sing along. Maybe some doo-doos from the audience. Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun. And I said, it's alright. Little darling, it's been a long, cold, lonely winter. Little darling, it feels like years since it's been here.
Indeed, here comes the sun. Thank you, Jessica and Aaron. That was beautiful and so appropriate, even at this time when we've jumped ahead an hour. The light is indeed returning. I don't know about the ice melting quite yet, but we do have more sun. Welcome to the Alaska Center for Spiritual Living, and thank you for inviting us into your home, on your laptop, your PC, your phone, however you are watching right now. Thank you. It is indeed an honor to be a part of your Sunday morning. I'm going to continue the series I kind of started last week on the spiritual practice of visioning. Going to continue that a little bit, and I'd like to start this week with a story. And I like to preface my stories with the same kind of a saying that the ancient storytellers always told before they relayed their stories. And it goes something like this. We don't know if it happened exactly like this or not, but that's unimportant. What's important is the story. And so all of my stories this morning came out of this month's issue of Guideposts. And I'm not sure everything that I'm going to relay is exactly like it happened, but that's not important. What's important is the story. I'm reading a great book right now by John Gierach. And one of the things that John talks about, there was an old Western movie, and the epigraph in this Western movie was, well, we don't know if it happened exactly like that or not, but if it didn't, it should have. And that's kind of how this is. Well, my story, opening story, I call it Awakened. And a lady by the name of Arlene Malagna of Ocean, New Jersey, relayed how one night she was asleep and she was awakened by a tap on her shoulder. And she thought it must be her husband, and she rolled over, but he was sitting there sound asleep. And she thought, well, this is strange. And she put her head back on the pillow and started to try to drift back off, and boom, she had another tap on the shoulder. This time she was certain that it had to be her husband, so she rolled over and she looked at him, and he was softly snoring away, and she shook him and she woke him up. She said, what was that all about? And he said, and he was asleep again before she even, so she figured it must have been an extremely vivid dream. Once again, she lay down on a pillow, closed her eyes. This time, there was no mistaking. It was like she was being shaken. And she said, wow. And so she got up, and at the same time she was awakened very suddenly, 3 o'clock in the morning, she got this feeling, this urge to go to her basement. And she thought, now that is weird. There is absolutely nothing in my basement. It's an unfinished basement. There's nothing down there but concrete and the washer and the dryer. Why would I go to the basement at 3 o'clock in the morning? But the urge was irresistible. She thumbled out of bed, put on her robe, and proceeded to go downstairs to the first floor and then down the stairs to go to the basement. She opened the door to the basement and started down the stairs, and she knew that she didn't have any laundry going on, but she could hear her dryer. What she found out later is that her husband had spilled some coffee on his work pants, part of his uniform, and had come home, washed it out by hand, and then threw it in the dryer to dry overnight. As she went down and she heard the dryer going, I thought, well, that's not right. And she opened the door to the dryer and started to stick her hand in there, and oh my goodness, it was so hot. It was ready to burst into flames. She couldn't even put her hand inside the dryer. What had happened is there was a malfunction, and the dryer stayed on the absolute maximum heat and never shut off. She was moments away from starting a fire. Now, not all of the inspirations or the intuition and the still small voice is as loud as that. I mean, we have stories in the scriptures going back all the way through the Hebrew scriptures that talk about burning bushes, and we talk about the booming voices from the sky. They're not always like that, and they're not always like sudden urges in the night to wake you up. Sometimes they're very subtle, but they can be just as important as those. The title of my talk today is Catch and Release. No, it doesn't have anything to do with fly fishing. And my 2 points are, imaginatively enough, catch and release. Catch. In the process of visioning, we catch a vision. There's an old saying that energy flows where attention goes. And in this process, we open ourselves up and we don't place our attention on anything. We are receptive to Spirit's inspiration within our lives. Ernest Holmes wrote, "We must increase our receptivity, continuously extend and expand our comprehension. We shall declare 100 times a day, there is no limit to the good which is mine." Powerful statement by Holmes. And he talks about increasing our receptivity. It's important to note that we do not manifest the vision. We do not manifest the vision. It already is. We catch a new idea, a new belief, and we become that which we already are. Again, the vision already is. The vision already exists. We catch a new idea, a new thought, a new belief, and we become that which we already are. The recognized queen of visioning, Ray Jordan, wrote in the Visioning Guide, "In visioning, we are not trying to make anything happen. We are asking what we must embrace in consciousness in order to become the vision waiting to happen through us." Again, in visioning, we are not trying to make anything happen. We are asking what we must embrace in consciousness in order to become the vision waiting to happen through us. Second point is release. Often we ask the question, what must be released when we are in the visioning process? And I think that might very well be modified to say, what is Spirit's highest idea of what needs to be released? In this process, we release the obstacles and the impediments that are in the way of our living the vision. We release the obstacles and the impediments. And when we release, when we let go of it, we let it go, we make room for the good in our lives. Nature abhors a vacuum, and when we release, we take something out and it's got to be filled with something, and it can be filled with God's highest inspiration for our lives. A guy by the name of Paul Faulkner of Houston, Missouri, told a powerful story. It started on December 6th, 2007. Paul was a manager at a Walmart store, a department manager at a Walmart store. He had been taken out of public schools in the 4th grade. He went to a church school. He kind of fell behind in that. It took him an extra year to graduate. He didn't have a lot of self-esteem, particularly around academics and that kind of stuff. And he finally did graduate. Took a while, but he got a job at Walmart. But he worked hard. He was a hard worker, and he's a smart guy. And he applied himself, and he slowly worked himself up until he became a department manager. He'd been a department manager at that point for, I think, 11 years. And he left his job early that day. He was going home to change and go to the church where he worshiped to work on their Christmas float for the Christmas parade that was coming up. But it was a cold snap coming in, and temperature was going down. Things were starting to freeze. So he looked around. He was going to put on his stocking cap, and it wasn't in its usual place. He had to search around for it. It took him about 20 or 30 seconds to find his stocking cap, but he got it and he put it on, and off he went. And as he drove where his usual route, Route 65, goes on into town, it goes over a bridge. And as he came around the corner just before that bridge, he came in and there was a horrible accident. A police cruiser, the Crown Vic, had had a head-on with a big pickup truck. And the whole front of the Crown Vic was essentially gone. And he pulled over to the side of the road. He jumped out and he run up. He was the second person on scene. He'd only, that wreck had only occurred 20 or 30 seconds before he arrived. And he looked into the squad car. No one was conscious. And so he started to run over to the other car, and the other car that had been actually first on scene came up, and the lady stated that she was a nurse, and he said, "Oh, thank God, what do we do?" And she says, "There's not much we can do. I've already called 911. And he looked in that car, and both of the occupants of that bigger truck were okay. They were in extreme shock. So he turned and he went back to the police squad car, and the guy behind the wheel was starting to move. And he said, "Take it easy. It's okay. Help is on the way. Just wait here. You're going to be all right. This is okay." He didn't know where that came from, but he felt this sense of helplessness because he didn't know what else to do. And he stepped back, and at that moment the paramedics arrived. They had the fire department, they had the jaws of life, and these guys were amazing. They were so skilled, so professional. They got in, they cut the car apart, they got everybody out, and they were off on their way to the hospital in a matter of moments. And Paul sat there, and he just was like in shock, and he just said a prayer for the team at the emergency room that would be helping these people. He found out later that the other person in the front seat of the police cruiser was a 35-year-old young female officer. She was in training for advanced things within the police department, and they were transporting 2 prisoners. And the lady and the lady officer passed away, and one of the prisoners had passed away. But this nagging feeling within Paul was that he should have known more. He should have been able to do more. Finally, he called his mother, who was a very blunt lady, and he told her what was going on inside of him. And she said, "Paul, you're not a paramedic. You're a manager at Walmart. You need to realize you're not trained for it. There was nothing you could do." He accepted that, but he still had that powerful feeling that there was more that he could have done, and he couldn't seem to shake that. And so he talked to his mom again, and he said, "I think maybe I'm being called to be a paramedic." And she said, "You may want to think about that." She said, "In 10 or 20 years from now, do you still want to be crawling in and around wrecked cars?" She said, "Maybe you should consider being a nurse." And he thought, "Well, I can't do that. I don't have the education. I don't have any of the things necessary to do that." And she said, "Paul, if that is the will, if that's what is driving you, then you need to do it. You need to try." Well, he had to get his GED because the high school that he went to wasn't accredited, so he had to get his GED. Then he had to take the ACT. He did those things. He was admitted to a junior college. He got in there, and after 2 years, he was admitted into a nursing program. And 4 years after that, he graduated, top of his class, as a registered nurse. And as he moved into his new field, he knew that he was in the right place. What I read about Paul afterwards was the fact that his immense compassion for his patients. He just seemed to have a knack for being to help people, whether it was in a loss of life situation or regardless of the situation. Paul just seemed to have something special about him. Now, the large urging that Paul had is not exactly the same thing that we experience in visioning, but it's not far off. It's the same principle that we have, where we are receptive to something that is urging us to do something. This is one of those Paul Harvey rest of the story moments. For a couple years later, Paul was on his way into town, going over that same bridge. There had been a simple cross erected on that site to memorialize that young female officer. She had 2 small children when she died. And he'd often thought about contacting them, but he'd never been able to. He'd never made that contact. Well, he and his wife were headed into town late. They came around the corner and they saw 2 ladies standing in front of that cross. And he knew it's them. He pulled over at exactly the same spot that he had pulled into when he ran up to the wreck. And he walked across the road and he said, "Did you know Laura?" And they said, "Yes, we did. That's our mom. We're her twin daughters." And he was able to relate to them her last moments and how she did not die alone. It's that kind of contact that we can make when we listen to the still small voice, or the voice that sometimes isn't so still and so small and won't go away. Eugene Holden, who is, I don't know how you describe Eugene Holden. He is now and has been the head of the World Ministry of Prayer. He is Mr. World Ministry of Prayer. And in the Science of Mind magazine in November of 2018, Eugene Holden wrote, "Fear keeps us hanging on to what doesn't work in our lives. It also keeps us from surrendering to our good. Surrender has 2 sides. We surrender all that does not serve us. Then we surrender to our greatest good." And you see, that's what Paul was able to do. He was able to surrender to that which didn't really serve him. He had a great life as a Walmart manager. He was a good father, a good provider, but it wasn't all that he could be. And when he surrendered that, creating that void, creating the vacuum for the good to flow into his life, he then was able to serve others. He went on to do missions in Africa. And it's all because he had the courage to release that, to surrender to it. Michael Beckwith, at least that's who I heard this attributed to, I don't know, but it was attributed to Michael Beckwith, once said it, "Where there is willingness, there is a way. Where there is willfulness, there is a wall." And I think that this applies. My final story is a story by the name of Julie Garman. She lives in Monroe, Georgia. It was originally written as part of a 12-step kind of a story talking about Al-Anon and the things that she had learned from Al-Anon. But the parts of it I'm going to talk about today are the parts that are so important about letting go, that surrender that we were talking about. She had a dog. It was a rescue dog. Looked like it was mostly yellow lab. Might have been all yellow lab. She loved that dog. The dog loved her, and he was just a wonderful, wonderful companion. She lived on a plot of land that was back in the woods, those tall Georgia pines, about 1/3 of a mile from the road, and her mailbox was out there. And one morning she got up and decided she needed to stretch her legs, and thought she'd walk down to the mailbox, see if the last afternoon's mail was still there. So she got up and she started walking, and she picked up her iPad and her earbuds and put them in and started listening to her music and started walking down. And her loyal dog, Clyde, her 4-year-old dog, was tagging along behind her. And she walked down, and the mail was there. She picked up her mail, and she started heading back. She'd only gone about 50 feet or so, and she noticed that Clyde wasn't there. And she knew that wasn't right. She called out, but no Clyde. So she ripped out her earbuds, calling for Clyde. No Clyde, no Clyde. She turned around and started walking back, and as she walked back, there came Clyde. There's blood on his paws. He was limping very, very badly from his back leg. She knew that he'd been hit by a car. And she had her iPad and her tunes playing, her earbuds cranked up to full volume, didn't even hear the accident. And so she grabbed him, and Clyde was a big boy, and she couldn't possibly carry him. She didn't bring her leash, so she had to call him, "Come, Clyde," all the way back to the house, to her car. She jumped in her car and immediately headed for the veterinarian, and the entire time she was beating herself up. Oh, why did I take that stupid iPad? Why was I listening to this? Why did I have in those earbuds? Why didn't I hear this? Why wasn't I watching Clyde? She arrived at the veterinarian's office and brought him in, and the veterinarian was not overly supportive. He was not overly encouraging that there would be no problems. He said, first exam, it looks like he may have a broken hip, perhaps a broken pelvis. He's been hit hard, but he's a tough dog. He does have the possibility for pneumonia, possibility for a collapsed lung, possibility for fluid on his lungs. There's something wrong in the front. We're just going to have to check it out. We're going to have to do some tests, but we'll do our best. And he asked her to come back at 4. She went home and she thought about it, and she just beat herself up the entire time. Why did she do that? Why? And she knew in that place what she needed to do, and she called her Al-Anon sponsor and started to relay all of the things that she had done wrong. And her Al-Anon sponsor stopped her at that moment and said, "Julie, you got to let go. You got to release that." She said, "Remember, in our serenity prayer, God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Julie, this is something that you cannot change." And Julie thought about that, and she realized that that was true. And so as her way back to the veterinary's office, of course she was half hour early, she thought about that, and she realized that this was something greater than her. And in her terminology, what she did is she surrendered to God. She said, "God, you got this. I can't do it. This is in your hands." In our philosophy, we may not do the same kind of a thing, but I know from my standpoint, rather than begging or beseeching a guy in the clouds that may or may not grant my wishes, where I go to is a place of fully understanding that there is a power in the universe, one magnificent power that is always operating, and it is trying to experience life through me. And that when I open up to that goodness, that greatness, and I allow that divine current to flow through me, rather than me getting my bloated nothingness in the way, I allow that current to go, that things seem to work out a heck of a lot better. So she did. She turned it over to her higher power. And she went in half hour early, and the receptionist said, "Yes, the doctor would like to talk to you and come back here," which really scared her. And the short of it is that the veterinarian said that Clyde's going to be okay. He's going to be able to go home with you tonight. He does have pneumothorax injury of some type, but he's going to be okay. No broken bones. He's one tough dog, and it's all going to be okay. And of course, she was filled with joy at that. But I think that the bigger story here is that she had accepted that no matter what happened, even if it was something that was really bad for Clyde, she was at peace because she had made that connection with her higher power. And I think that when we can come to that place and we can step out of the way and let that divine work through us, rather than us trying to dictate to the divine what we want or trying to beg the divine to do what we want it to do, that things work out a heck of a lot better. Let's see, at this time in the service, we're about a quarter till. I do want to extend a very warm welcome to those of you who are just now turning in. Those of you who forgot to turn your clock ahead, you ought to be just getting here about now. The conclusion today is a quote from Jeffrey Ryan, who is the chair of the CSL Visioning team. This is what Jeffrey Ryan wrote. When we consciously use the creative process, we embrace a new thought or a new idea, planting it into the creative medium, assured of its demonstration by our embodiment of it. Instead of using the creative process to demonstrate changed conditions, visioning uses the creative process to embrace a new way of being, the embodiment of which results in personal transformation. We do not manifest the vision. Rather, we attune and align ourselves with it, becoming the avenues through which it reveals itself as our lived experience. And so it is from this place of alignment with that infinite presence that we call God, that I invite my colleagues, both here in the production studio and at home, to join me in holding our congregation, our city, our state, our nation, the entire globe in love and light, and recognizing that there is that magnificent power that is continually and forever expressing itself as each and every one of us. We are all expressions of the Most High. We are all perfect in every way if we would only realize that. If we would release the beliefs that we are not enough, release the beliefs that we don't have the education, release that we're too short, too tall, too fat, too skinny. Let it go and recognize that as a precious child of God, we are God expressing itself. And so as we go through this thing called life and we encounter all types of things in our lives, we know that we are greater than those things. We are greater than lack and limitation. We are greater than separation from one another and separation from God, because we can never be separate from God. We are greater than dis-ease. We are greater than health. For we are health. We are the expression of perfect health. Each and every one of us. And so we can just give thanks. We can give thanks for our awareness. We can give thanks for our connection to our higher power. We can give thanks for the love of God. And so we do. We give thanks. We get our bloated nothingness out of the way, and we allow the divine current to carry us. And so it is.
When everything changes, I can change anything. Turning the pages, everything's new. If life's little stages are teaching me anything, it's everything changes and I can change too. Used to be when things got crazy, I'd get to feeling low, but I found out I can't let that faze me. Honey, now I know. When everything changes, I can change anything. Turning the pages, everything's new. If life's little stages are teaching me anything. It's everything changes, and I can change too. Who expects the unexpected, like sneaking up on you? And sometimes we all feel disconnected. What you gonna do? When everything changes, I can change anything. Turning the pages, everything's new. If life's little stages are teaching me anything, it's everything changes, and I can change too. Who's to say why it works this way? Well, it's kind of strange, but it's true. When everything changes, I can change anything. Turning the pages, everything's new. If life's little stages are teaching me anything, it's everything changes, and I can change too. Everything changes, and I can change too. Everything changes, and I can change too.
Perfect song. What a selection. Aaron, you're awesome. Jessica, thank you. Now it's a time in our service where we are afforded the opportunity to step into and be a part of this magnificent law of circulation. Like to recognize some of the people that are in the chat room today. Beverly Churchill, Tiffany, Liz Clark, Kaleem, Michelle Kuntz, Patty McCrary. Got to have that Fairbanks presence. Gene Karwowski, all the way from Arizona. Nanetta, Lynn and Marion, Joan, Judy Wolf, Trevor, Judith Mack, Robert, Dable and Kim, and Tammy Carmack. I got a bear story next week, Tammy. Okay, this is the time. Let's join us in our affirmation. Take your tithes, offerings, whatever. We don't do that. But this is the opportunity. If we have the link in the chat room, you can click on that, and before the next song is done, you can make a contribution to the center. Okay. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. So it is. Got it. Affirmation is, when I allow others to support me, I support them too.
People just like me, so till the birth of peace on earth, that
Beautiful. Woo! Wow, extra vocals by Claire. Beautiful. Woo! So as we close today, our lives can change in 20 seconds or less. That tap on our shoulder can bring you to who you already are, who you were sent here to be. So release the fear, release beliefs that don't serve you. Surrender to your greatest life by taking the time to listen to that still, small voice sent to guide you. Will you listen? What will your story be? Please join me by saying, and so it is. And our affirmation today, everything changes.
Everything changes.
And I can change too.
I can change too. There was a time in my life I thought I'd have to do it all for myself. Didn't know the grace of God was sufficient. Didn't know the love of God was at hand. But now I can say, if you are discouraged, struggling just to make it through another day, you've got